In 1939, Wallace Mason, nearing his 70s, retired. On May 31st, 1939, the school officially became Keene Teachers College. That fall, a new administration was to address the changing social values of the youth culture that preceded World War II. Lloyd Young, some 40 years the junior of Daddy Mason, was to lead the school through the war, to the first year of its becoming Keene State College. Young's first major administrative decision was to become a symbol of both the changing times and the temper of the man.
And some girls came to my office and wanted to know, would I approve changing the regulation that required girls to wear long black stockings when they were playing tennis in their tennis outfits, because at that time they could wear bloomers, but they also had to wear long black stockings up to the bloomers. So I think that's the first change in student regulations I made here at the college, was to allow them to wear socks instead of long black stockings.
Strict rules of dating and curfew stayed intact.
If you wanted to go to the movies, he'd have to go to Miss Eston and get a written permit to take me to the movies. And you'd have to say which movie you were going to, what time it was, and then you'd have to be home as soon as the movie was over. Well, they'll give us about 15 minutes to walk home, I think.
Another custom, which had been practiced since the earliest days of the institution, was the rose ceremony. The rose ceremony involved the students walking under an arch with roses in their hands. They'd be singing the Rose Ceremony Song.
We met out on the grass in front of Huntress, and kind of did like they did in the building, but it was out on the lawn. So it was quite symbolic, you know. And then we sang that. There was a song that went with it. Take this rose, this tiny rose, and wear it for a day.
Sensing the need to throw the resources of the college behind the troubled times, President Young brought the Civilian Pilot Training Corps program to campus. This would overlap with the Naval Air Training Program in the early 1940s. These programs would train over 700 pilots. One of those student pilots was Patricia Thompson Shedd, class of 1943, the only woman to enlist in the program.
So I went to Dr. Young and I asked if it were possible for a woman to join that group, and he was very receptive to the idea, and I don't know what made him accept me, but he was willing, so I did, and I started taking the classes.
After receiving her pilot's license, in the summer of 1943, Patricia applied to the Women Air Force Service Pilots, the WASPs. The mission of the WASPs was to free up male pilots for combat by allowing female pilots to fly military planes in the continental United States. However, when she revealed that she was engaged to be married, she was taken off the list of eligible pilots, as married women were not allowed to take part in the program.
So that was a serious disappointment for me, that I couldn't do that. And And to be truthful with you, in retrospect, it was probably the beginning of my very enthusiastic feminism. I think the roots of it began there.
She went on to a distinguished career as professor of English at New York State University, Cortland, and is considered a person of great influence in the feminist movement, and is entered in Feminists Who Changed America for her scholarship in reader response theory to literature which represented women's changing roles in society. In 2003, 60 years after her last flight in 1943, Patricia Thompson Shedd was again piloting a plane. However, with the United States' entry into the war, the male enrollment in the academic programs was to plummet. Large numbers of male KTC students interrupted their careers to fight in the Second World War. Some did not return.
Yeah, I had a steady boyfriend, Hollis Furbush, who was in the Marines and was killed overseas.
Nobody loves me now. Nobody cares at all. My man's gone away. Guess I'm through with love. Ain't got a thing to do. Ain't got no place to go. I don't feel good, 'cause I'm through with love. Someday, perhaps I'll find true love and build a happy home. But now my love is gone away, and I'm all alone. Nobody loves me now. Nobody cares at all. All because of you. Guess I'm through with love.
Because of the shortage of men, KTC women were pressed into picking potatoes during the war.
They were very short of help on a farm somewhere outside of the city to pick up potatoes. And we were given the day off, given a packed lunch, and a truck picked us up early in the morning, and we went out and picked up potatoes all day. That was a war effort. We thought it was a lark. It wasn't difficult at all. It was great. It was like a women's college, but we bonded, and it was just so much fun.
On April 10, 1945, Eleanor Roosevelt came to speak at Keene Teachers College. Dinner was served by awestruck home economics students.
Mrs. Roosevelt was in the city to give a speech, and the college entertained her for dinner that night. So we were all on our very best behavior because we had Mrs. Roosevelt in the dining room. I was always very proud that I had the opportunity to pour a glass of milk for her.
2 days later, FDR died. 4 months later, the war would end.